It's about 102 degrees Fahrenheit in Irvine, California, and people are crazy, screaming that they are prunes, dried up prunes and mangoes. Mangoes taste good. Hatchet by Gary Paulsen. There's an interesting fact about Gary Paulsen, the author, which is pretty sad, but that's the reason why he wrote this book, Hatchet. So I'm going to tell you that story right now. So Gary Paulsen, actually, when he was 14, he ran away from his home, and that's where he got his influence on this book with adventure, exploring the new world and reality, and that crazy stuff that I don't go through gladly. And I want to talk about some of the symbols that are on this page. There's actually a lot. Let's first talk about the background. The background is not in a home. It is in like a outdoor forest. As you can see, there's trees here, and mountains, and beautiful sunset, and then there's the hatchet in the middle. And for you guys who don't know what a hatchet is used for or what it is, it's like an axe, except it's used for chopping wood, and it actually has all the utilities of a pocket knife. So you can like sharpen things with it, you can cut things with it. Yeah, it's a very useful tool when you're outdoors. This is a plane. There it is. And this is the plane that the main character rode. And this is a coyote howling at the moon. We don't know if it's a werewolf yet. But this symbolizes the outdoor and wilderness of where he is. So let's talk with the main character, Brian Robeson, which is this guy in the middle. He's like, and can I just mention one thing? Does he look familiar to you? Like, he looks like Michael Jackson to me, except like Michael Jackson has a crazy like afro hair. Seriously. Well, his name is Brian, not Michael Jackson. Darn, I wish it was Michael Jackson. So this is one of the books where the cover is so descriptive that you can tell the whole story just by looking at the cover. So what do you actually think this book is about? Well, it's exactly like how this book picture is. He first gets on a plane, and then the plane crashes in an island, and he's only left with a hatchet. This is the hatchet. And he uses that, he only has that to make a survival. And then he explores the wilderness. He meets a porcupine with 100 needles in his leg. Ouch. And this is technically the whole story. But why is this so great? Because it is a Newbery Honor book. And of course, I told you like 1,000 times, but obviously this genre is adventure. And I really like this book. And it's actually the winner of the 1988 Newbery. I don't think they have space to put the medal because they really put it super small. And actually, even though you can get the broad general summary by looking at the pictures, it's better to know detail. Because if you just say, oh, what's Hatchet about? A friend asks you, and you're like, oh, it's about a boy who is stranded on an island because the plane exploded, and then he uses a hatchet to survive, and then he meets coyotes. See, that's a very broad general, and you don't really want that kind of summary. You want a more fun summary. And actually, this book is very fun. Even though it's pretty thick. It's medium sized. And so let me tell you the detail, the juicy part of the gun. Juicy part of the gun. I like that. So what happens? Well, first, plane. So I'm gonna go in sequence from plane to hatchet to wilderness. Okay. So what happens? Plane. Okay. So Brian is a 13-year-old boy, and he's the main character. Robeson, I think. Brian Robeson. Weird name. Hard to say. So, as I told you before, his parents are divorced. So, he lives with the mom, and he's going on the plane to visit his dad because, if you don't know, a divorce is a very, very, hard thing, especially for the child. And just because the parents don't like each other does not mean that the child has preference over one parent. So that's why he first lives with his mom, and then he goes visit his dad, and then goes back to his mom. And because he wants to see them both. They're technically both his parents. Like, they didn't get remarried or anything. However, his mom is seeing a man. A blonde, strange man. That's hard to do. Like, disturbs my nerves. And when he goes on the plane, there was a malfunction, and the whole plane just. Wait, let me do the part from Rio. Shake it, do the dance. Okay, so that's exactly what happened, except they didn't do the dance. And Brian was the only survivor left. At first, he was like, okay, everyone died. I only have a hatchet. I'm gonna die. But he has hope. He has a lot of hope. And then they found out, of course, that the airplanes crashed. And now the government is like, ah! And they go looking for survivors just in case there are. And actually, there's a plane that flies right across where the plane crashed. And Brian's like, here. But they couldn't see him because he's so tiny in that big forest. He's covered by all those trees. So they just flew by and left, and then they stopped looking for him for like 2 months. So that's pretty sad. And then that's when Brian lost his hope, when the plane just like, whoo, just went by. But then he regained his hope with the help of the second step, the hatchet. The hatchet is the most important, obviously, because the title is Hatchet. And, now that I think about it, I wonder how I would survive if I was Brian. I was the only one left. I'll probably be like, I miss my mommy. Like, I want to see my daddy. But, actually I'll do something useful. Maybe, make some wooden spears and cut it and make a bow and arrow and, like, eat fish. I really like fish. And that is exactly what Brian did. He first made a spear because he needed to get food. But before that, before he got food, he first got a fire. And, he didn't have matches or anything. He just came out with a hatchet. And how are you supposed to make fire with a hatchet? Because if he doesn't make a fire, he's going to starve to death and freeze to death. Because it's really cold in the forest. So what he did was, he actually had something else. He had a $20 bill. Woohoo! But then, here's the sad part that breaks my heart. He ripped the $20 bill into shredded pieces. You know what he could do with $20? Only if I had $20 more. But he needed to do that because what can you buy with $20 in a forest? There's no shop or anything. It's like, oh, I get coyote skin as a souvenir from the forest that I just got stranded on and I'll almost die. No. So, turns out paper is a great way to start a fire. So with a hatchet, he started hitting the stones because if that happens, the static and the friction creates sparks. And once you get enough sparks, once you do that for a long time, and actually requires a lot of strength, then you start gathering all these leaves, all this plants, dump it in the spark, and as soon as you see the little glow light, blow as hard as you can. And you think that if you blow out a fire, then it'll just extinguish like a candle. But it's different because this is a natural fire. Natural fires, you can only blow on it to make it bigger. So eventually, after hard hours of hitting the stone, gathering these, shredding the $20 bill, he finally started a fire. And then what happened? His stomach was like, I want food, give me food, I'm hungry. Well, didn't really see that, but so Brian had to get food, but how? Is he gonna catch a bear or catch a wolf and eat it? Tear it apart to shreds and no, he will die. So what he did was, there was a stream. There was a river, a lake kind of thing, and there were a bunch of fish. But he first went in the water, he's like, oh, this is so good because it was hot. And then he grabbed the fish, but then it just popped out. So he thought, how can you catch a fish? fish with just his bare hands. They all run away too fast. So he decided to make a weapon with his hatchet. So he got a piece of wood, kind of like this one, except it was probably thicker. And he sharpened the end, and he made it a spear. He threw it at the fish, but it didn't work because the spear is too long that if you just, as soon as it hits the water, the fish all run away. So this is too slow. So he was like, he thought, who would the people in the old days think like? And here is a historical fact for you. Cro-Magnons, I think that's how you pronounce it, Cro-Magnons, were the first Homo sapiens to ever live. They're the earliest. And if you don't know, Homo sapiens are humans, and they developed from apes and monkeys and all that stuff. So they were the first, and they designed spears and bows and arrows. And he said, I designed spears. How about bows and arrows? Rainbow. And then that's when he got a light bulb. He said, I'm gonna make a bow and arrow. Then a bow and arrow is much, much more useful than a spear because the bow and arrow, you can actually catch birds, you can catch fish, you can catch bunnies if they live in the forest. So you can catch a lot more things, and this is actually improvisation of an arrow. Feathers. So he made a bow and arrow, and it succeeded. So after he caught his first 3 fish, he had a big feast. What he did was he took the spear and he put the fish, all fish, lined up like this, and then he put it on the fire. He's like ooh, and then he couldn't resist the smell. And he just starts eating. So that was his first step to survival. Now, what else did he do with the hatchet? He actually did a lot of things. And at the end, should I tell you this? It'll kind of spoil the story for you, but I guess the cover already did, so I'm gonna tell you. So what else he did with the hatchet was, well, he caught a lot of food. He actually caught a bird. He made like chicken, I guess. And it said here that it tasted better than real chicken. I actually want to taste a bird now. Maybe a crow and you just like catch one. I think it'll taste disgusting. And the final and most important thing he did with the hatchet happened after a tornado, a hurricane. What happened was, since it's in the wild, a lot of natural disasters can happen. A hurricane came, and it blew, it made everything messy, and after the day after the hurricane, he found out that the clean, clear water that he used to fish in was all murky now because all the dirt went in. So he's like, no, I don't have any fish. He's like, and they were good. I bet they were good. So but then the hurricane actually did one good thing and one bad thing. The bad thing was the fish. The good thing was what made him survive. Well, I guess this is how I got his name, Survival Kit. He found the plane. He found the tail of the plane, and if you actually go on the plane and you go to the very, very back, there's a huge box, and it says Survival Kit, or like the first aid sign. And so he knew that was in there. He's like, how am I gonna get the Survival Kit? Hatchet. Ding, 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 ding. Light bulb, light bulb, light bulb. So he took the hatchet. He started banging on the side of the airplane. Surprisingly, it gave in easily. It said that it was just aluminum coating, and one strike with a hatchet made a hole. It's pretty amazing. So he struck it 3 times and made a triangular shape. What happens? Disaster. He drops the hatchet into the murky, deep water. So now he's like, great, I don't have a hatchet. And he was so furious. He's like, how could I do this? This is the biggest mistake I've ever made. Like, all this time I've survived with a hatchet. I've caught fish, I've caught birds, I've survived, I made a fire just with this hatchet, and now I've lost it. Well, he couldn't just stand there and cry. He had to go get the hatchet. But the dangerous thing was he doesn't know what's in the lake. Like, even though it is a lake, there could be like, I don't know, piranhas or something. There are some in the Amazon. But he had no choice. Like, either way he was gonna die with the hatchet, or if he dies in the water, he's gonna die either way. So he decided to go get the hatchet. The thing is, it was super deep. So he went down 11 feet, 4 more feet, and his ears started ringing and ringing. He couldn't hold his breath, and he started seeing color visions and all this blurry stuff, and then he finally found the handle of the hatchet. And then he's like, huh, that was fun to do. I got dizzy now. Imagine how Brian would have felt. So he finally found the hatchet, and then he did extra carefully. Before he was like, he's like, ting, 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 because he doesn't want to lose it again. He doesn't want to go through that excruciating pain again, because that's a lot of pain. Ringing in your ears, dizzy. Probably feel like his brain flipped upside down. So when he got his hatchet back, he made a hole in the airplane, big enough for him to put his head and shoulders through. He slipped right through, found the survival kit, and got out. And that is where Wilderness helps him, and that is the climax of the story when he finds the survival kit. And in survival kit, there's so many amazing, useful things that in real life we would think like that's nothing. First, there was a fishing rod with bait and coils, so he could fish easily. There was many things, water and food, dehydrated, cold ice food, and then he had a feast. But there's one thing that I really think inspired me. There was a rifle in the survival kit. Obviously, if you get stranded in the forest, you don't want to like go through all that Brian did just to survive. If you just get a rifle, just shoot a bear down. But after Brian has gone through all this for months and months, about three months, I guess, he's made nature a friend. It's a friend now. He doesn't want to like shoot down bears, shoot down coyotes. He's made it through all with that just scratch piece of paper, I guess you can call it, the hatchet. He's made it all the way through, and he does not want to take any shortcut. He doesn't want to harm the nature like that. Like, obviously, if there's a rifle and you're stuck in the forest, everyone would just pick it up and start shooting down coyotes and eat them. But Brian is different. He said, no, I'm not gonna do this. Like, I'm just gonna live the way I am, and if I'm careful with these survival kits, I'll live for as long as I want. So he throws the rifle away. Yes, he does. In the end, what happens is one pilot comes and he sees the fire, and he says, "What is that?" He goes down. He finds Brian, and Brian goes back to his dad. Brian tells the whole story to his dad. His dad does not believe him. Who would? Like, oh, I survived with a hatchet. I caught fish and made bows and arrows. I don't think they're crazy. And there's a lot of themes in this book. One, most importantly, survival. The second most important is hope. Hope, love, family, all that. The hope, why is important? Well, Brian has gone through ups and downs through his adventure throughout this 3 months of wilderness. But if he did not have hope, how would he have survived? If he did not have hope that he would make some useful thing with a hatchet, if he did not have hope that he would find food, find a survival kit, he would have already died. So hope is a very important thing, not just in this book, not just in the wilderness, in the forest with coyotes and porcupines shooting 100 needles at you, but even in real life. Just because you fail at one thing doesn't mean that you can't get back up. It's just a scratch on your knee. You can stitch it, you can bandage it, you can cure that scratch, but once you just lay there, once you fall, you trip, just lie down there, you don't try to get back up, that's when you die. Yeah. Wow, I just sound like Confucius. Dun dun. So those two are the biggest lessons. or themes of this book, Hatchet. It really inspired me. It gave me hope, and most importantly, it told me to appreciate the things that I already have. Like, he doesn't have anything like, no cell phone, no internet, That's me. But I've learned to appreciate the things I already had, not to get so greedy. That's the main theme and lesson that you can get from this wonderful book, Hatchet.